Howard. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of Monday, July the 14th. I wish to begin tonight's meeting by acknowledging that we are having this meeting and that the District of Sooke is located on the territories of both the Sooke and Shaanu nations. And tonight is a bit of a special night for us because we will be celebrating by having our new councillor-elect take his oath and join council. So on that note, I'm going to turn the matter over to our Deputy Corporate Officer, who will bring Councillor-elect Herb Haldane forward to take his oath. And once that's done, we will continue on with the rest of the business of today.
Need glasses. Read it out loud.
Yes, please.
I, Herb Haldane, do solemnly affirm that I am qualified to hold the office of councillor for District of Sooke, to which I have been elected. I have complied with the provisions of Local Government Act in relation to my election to this office. I will abide by all rules related to the conflicts of interest under the community charter. I will carry out my duties with integrity. I will be accountable for the decisions that I make and the actions that I take in the course of my duties. I will be respectful to others. I will demonstrate leadership and collaboration. I will perform the duties of my office in accordance with the law. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome. Hey, welcome, Councillor Haldane. We're very glad to have you here. And I know that we are sort of already in the term, so we'll be giving you a bit of a crash course and look forward to your participation in the meetings. So council, for the benefit of our new councillor, as we go through the agenda, I'm just going to give some high-level points so that it's a refresher for everybody and also just to help our new councillor along. So first off, we'll start with approval of tonight's agenda. And that would be that the agenda for the July 28, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented. It's moved by Councillor Haldane and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. So just a reminder that when you wish to speak, please turn on the microphone. And when you're finished, please turn it off. The system only allows for 3 microphones to be on at any given time, and it does pick up a lot of background noise. So for the benefit of the viewing public, as well as for record keeping, we just ask that you turn your microphones off. Okay, so we'll move on to our meeting minutes. And here we have the regular council meeting of July the 14th minutes. That's moved adoption by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Beddoes. Any questions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried unanimously. To our staff, I have not heard from Councillor McMath, so in the event that we receive an email and she joins the meeting virtually, if you could please let me know, and I'll acknowledge her at that time. Okay, so our next item up is our delegation section. Delegations are where residents or anyone actually could apply to present to council, and we set aside up to 5 minutes for each presenter. The council meeting usually allows for 2. Tonight we have 1 delegation from Mr. Christoph Zmuda. Is that correct? Zmuda? Okay. on the topic of property taxes for seniors over 65. So if you could please join us at the table, sir, and turn on the microphone so we can all hear you. We have 5 minutes set aside, and when you start speaking, our staff will turn on the timer so you can see how much time you have remaining. Thank you.
Uh, Good evening, everybody. So far, I learned that supposed to be 6 city council in Sooke. I don't see them all in the place, so that's the one issue. Second issue is a lot of respect. I was 3 p.m. here downstairs to get some information to prepare for the speech, and I met only one lady over there in the desk, and she said she's busy to give me the information, and she direct me to go home and make the phone call and make up appointment. It's a joke. I was in person and I couldn't get information because she is so busy. So I said, can I talk with somebody else? No, everybody is busy to prepare for the meeting tonight. So what's wrong? How do you operate in this business? So anyway, I reached the break point with you guys. I moved here 5 years ago for peaceful living because I got the accident, in COVID-19 time, and I lost my foot, and then I couldn't keep up and stay in my home in North Saanich. So the social worker at that time told me I have to go somewhere else for cheaper living to enjoy your life. At that time, I was under 65, so I received BC disability benefits, $1,400 a month, which was not enough to live in my home. So I moved to Sooke with hope I can do it. And it was okay when I moved in 2021, but not today. Today I got a letter which I ask you to eliminate my balance is $700 something, which I pay as much as I can because I'm a low income disability person on $1,800 a month with everything including. And I try my best, but I break up, I cannot do it anymore. So I'm facing to be the homeless because of the people like you doing something is not acceptable, like going up and up and up and up. You didn't stop a development in Sooke. This result is 400 houses are for selling because many people, they move in, they're disappointed because you didn't create any jobs offer for the people moving to Sooke. You didn't find solution for the traffic because to pay property taxes, people have to commute to Langford on Victoria every day, to get the money to pay the taxes, bloody taxes. So anyway, why I'm senior low income and why we have to pay property taxes. I used to work before accident for 30 years. I pay all taxes that everybody asks for, every taxes, and then where the taxes goes, that's the problem because the calculation of my CPP become up to the COVID-19, which was completely different story than today. As you know, life expenses going up, but not the pension plan. So that's what the problem is to live anymore. And this many people like me, low income seniors, facing eviction because they cannot keep up, you raising the cost and cost and cost. And today I want to get some information downstairs and I couldn't get information, so probably you and city council can give me the answers because they should know, right? If you're city council in Sooke, you should have a knowledge of everything and give me the answers, right? For example, I asked how many city council is in Sooke. So I didn't get the answer, but I learned it's supposed to be 6. I don't see 6 today, right? So why somebody else must get pay if it's not present? So this is the issue. You are big spenders, the money, and then the property tax is going up and up without reason, you know, so.
Okay, so thank you. We're at time for 5 minutes. I did at the outset ask if a member of council was attending virtually. That counselor is absent today. Why that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
There are 7 of us. However, if you have your questions and you leave them with your corporate officer, we can look into them and get back to you. But we are at the time limit of 5 minutes now.
Okay. So I have to set up another 5 minutes for another time.
Well, or what
Finish.
might be helpful is you've asked if
Because you not let me finish because you.
we have a
5 minutes.
business meeting tonight and we had 5 minutes set aside, so,
The crowd behind me, so.
but we have a long agenda of
Yes,
other items to
understand.
continue.
So how I can finish my problems?
How many more minutes do you require, sir?
I don't know. I try to tell you everything what happened and I even didn't start it. Only I can tell you one thing. Everybody know what which country is Switzerland, right?
Sure.
Yeah. You know how many people run the country?
I don't know the
I can tell you,
politics of Switzerland specifically.
7
Okay.
people run the Switzerland.
Thank you, sir.
So, and
I
Sooke,
don't want to
you-
discuss, yes.
City council?
Yeah, most councils in BC are a minimum of 5 and some are larger.
That's wrong. Supposed to be
Okay.
supposed to
Maybe you
maximum
could take,
3.
okay, you should take that up with our province. They're the ones that determine through the legislation of the Local Government Act what the composition of councillors are. That is a matter that we're not here to debate
You
tonight.
send me the property taxes from Sooke. I live in
Yes,
Sooke.
okay, well, thank
So
you, sir,
are
for your time.
eligible to answer my question.
You asked me about Switzerland. I answered it. I
I
don't know
give
their
the
governance
example
system.
That is overpaid.
Okay.
Everybody
Thank you, sir.
necessary, and then that's the.
Okay, well, how about you write out your questions and submit them to us and we will look to get a response to you tonight. But we do have an agenda of other items that have been advertised to the public. And that's what we're here to meet about tonight. Okay, so thank you.
Like I said, I didn't finish my speech, but you cut me off.
We are at time, sir. Thank you.
So I'm disappointed completely from the,
I understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, including you, because
Yeah,
you.
that's okay. Lots of
You
people are.
run for federal seats.
Yep, I
You know,
did, sir.
How you can run for federal seats when you
Yeah.
didn't solve the problem in Sooke?
I know, right?
If you have
Yes.
the people like you in the federal level,
Well, I'm not there, so obviously other people also feel that it's inappropriate for me to serve there. So thank you. Okay, Ms. Gray will be in touch with you. Thank you. Okay,
even coming my home, living in Sooke, working with family men, and you pay $3,600 without any grants, and you send me the $3,600 with grants. So I discussed it.
Okay. thank you.
So I don't cannot approve. So I propose
Okay,
reduce your salary to minimum wage.
okay.
For $2,800.
That would actually be giving me an increase, actually, so thank you. But that's okay. Okay, I would love to make minimum wage. We'll be just for those watching, it was about council stipend and that'll come forward at a future meeting. And we will discuss whether or not members of council should be at minimum wage, which will require an increase for all of us. Anyway. We'll just wait for the gentleman to exit, but we'll move into our report of the Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing too much to add to the report. Just wanted to say thank you to Miss Lou and the other staff who filled in for me while I was off for the last couple weeks here. And wanted to welcome Carmen, our new Corporate Services Assistant, to the team. This is her first council meeting. And of course, Councilor-elect Herb Haldane. Happy to see Herb on this side of the table and looking forward to working with him over the next year here. Happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gray. Over to Councillor Beddoes, please.
Yeah, I just want to put a thank you to Ms. Gray for talking to that gentleman and offering your services, because I know he was very distraught, and thank you for reaching out, and hopefully you can calm things down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I was curious. I know this is not in your report, and we're supposed to stay focused on that, but the property tax deferment program that allows individuals to defer their property taxes, which I believe was the subject of the delegation. Interested to know how many people are in fact deferring and how the process to go through that.
Okay, I will take that. In order to defer, you would need to apply for that months prior. So you would probably look to apply for this process. It depends on how much equity is within your home, and there's conditions on qualifying. So it could be family with children, or I think anyone of the age of 65 or older, but it then gets attached to title of your house. So there needs to be a certain amount of equity. And if folks leave it too late and they don't qualify, then you run the risk of a 10% penalty, because the taxes are always due on July the 2nd. There is a interest that accumulates along with this, and then it's discharged when the house transfers title. So the taxes are paid at a later date. The province keeps our municipality whole in the meantime. So we're not out taxes, but it is an option that's available. It's just on mine because a few residents earlier this year had reached out to me on how it worked. But it is a process that you need to start in advance of the due date of July the 2nd or 3rd. As for how many, that would be something that I think our staff could look up and get back to at a later date.
Yeah, I was just going to add for the detailed specific for Sooke specific, we can definitely include that in the next quarterly update that we do with just more of the stats and facts on how many deferments, how many homeowners grants, all of that stuff. So yes, that is what I was going to probably talk to him about. I assumed it was something with deferment or potentially missed his homeowner's grant, which is a common thing that happens.
Ms. Liu?
Thank you. Through the mayor, just to add to Rachel's comments, to apply for tax deferment, you cannot have outstanding tax on the prior years. You can only apply for current year's tax amount. Currently, Sooke has about $1.2 million in deferment.
Okay. So we'll move on to our public question and comment period. So for residents and or those in the gallery tonight, and our new counselor, we usually set aside 10 minutes or up to 2 minutes per person. This time can be extended at the will of council. So the items that public may speak about are what is on the public agenda. So I'll invite anyone forward that would like to comment.
Ellen Lors, I have to talk real fast. There's a few things on the agenda. One is the climate adaptation, whatever that is. What is the hazard, and what are we going to do about it? And it's another $150,000 in our budget, and I thought the climate action plan wasn't costing us anything, but it seems every time I turn around, there's another cost. On 10.5. 10.5 is 10.5 is, nope, let's back up. 9.5 Silver Spray, again, asking for another variance. They've never followed any of the bylaws, as I've been coming to these meetings longer than a lot of you people here, and they've never followed a bylaw. They've always get a variance. Yet on 10.2, there's a cash in lieu requirement for property on Woodlands for a park when I recall, I was at that meeting where they already put in, I think it was 16 meters wide pathway, which was park from the bottom of their property all the way up to Woodlands on Harborview for access to the park. And I don't think that's fair to ask again for cash in lieu for park when they already have given parkland. I find that a little strange. And the sponsorship sign for public sign for event, sponsorship signs. I've talked about this before and I meant to bring it tonight, but it's too busy to get it. But we talked about this before about putting up a sign. I think you recall that, putting up a sign for everybody to use. And I think that's something that we should be exploring. And I will bring it into the chief CEO because I did talk to her about it as well. But I think it's something that we should be looking at for all sponsorships, not all events, everything, because it just covers everybody and it's cheaper.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers tonight? Sorry, yes, can you please take a seat and then turn on the microphone and then everyone can hear you? You had emailed us, I believe. So, but if you could hand a copy to our deputy corporate officer, or that would be good. And then please turn on the microphone too.
So this is regarding a tree
We would just need your name for the record,
sure.
please.
Oliver Katz. Okay, and this is regarding a tree that was partially removed in front of the Heron View development and along the view corridor from Sooke's only short-term rental resort visitor centre, if you will. And so they've taken the tree down to about between 7.5 and 10 meters in there. Okay. And basically I'm just here to, give you some arguments on why it should be reduced a little bit further. The hazard removal rationale is incomplete. The rationale is provided is that the upper section of the tree was hazardous and its removal addressed public safety while the lower portion was retained to the benefit of the shoreline and stability habitat. But here's the concern: if the tree posed a hazard, why was an almost 10 meters of dead trunk left standing in a high traffic recreational and residential area? This is neither common nor practical approach to hazard mitigation. A safe height could be achieved perhaps 1 to 2 meters while still allowing the root mass to stabilize the shoreline. The current height is frankly an eyesore and potentially a remaining safety liability. May not fall down today, but you'd have to go and check on it every now and then, wouldn't you? As a council, it's probably better to deal with it as as it happens. The ecological justification doesn't align with the setting. The district suggests that the dead trunk provides habitat value, but this isn't a forest. This is a maintained residential and resort facing waterfront corridor. There's no evidence that this single trunk will become a meaningful wildlife habitat. In fact, tall dead trees in the open spaces are often avoided by birds due to exposure. The adjacent tree with foliage is where bird life seek refuge, along with the clump of trees in front of the Sooke Resort Marina.
Mr. Katz, we're at time, so if you want
Oh,
to
really?
just, that was well over 2 minutes now,
Oh,
but
shit.
just want to wrap it up.
I thought it was 10 minutes.
No, it's 2 minutes. 10 minutes total for everyone.
Basically, at the end of the day, it's really about, just give me this moment, impact on views and enjoyment of the public space. The letter from staff notes there's no formal view protection guidelines in place. That may be true, but the absence of a policy is not an absence of impact. Residents, strata members, visitors alike are impacted by the visual experience of the waterfront trail, which is degraded, particularly when a once green symmetrical tree is replaced with a raw decaying trunk. Now, obviously, the foliage all fell off and it's dead, right? So it needs to be cut down. To say the view is not significantly different is a subjective assessment and doesn't reflect the feedback from nearby stakeholders. Like, we have complaints from guests who stay at our Airbnb there, and you can see by the photos, it just faces it. Like, every window, there's 13 windows that face it, you know, and then the other residents at Heron View too. But I'll leave this stuff with you, and maybe we can get some feedback from everyone.
It's on the agenda tonight, so thank you for speaking to that. That was item 13.3. That's correspondence we'll be dealing with a little bit later.
Mayor Tate, Councillor McMath has joined the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McMath, would you like to test your audio, please? You can hear us and that we can hear you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We're seeing a screen, but staff will notify when your hand is up, and then we'll just ask you to turn on your video when you wish to comment on an agenda item. Okay, we will move on then. Sorry, yes, to our next speaker.
Thank you.
Okay?
Sorry. My apologies. My name's Shannon Diel, and I will keep it short because Oliver already spoke to much of what I'm going to say. The tree is basically right in front of my house, and now we have what looks like a giant dead telephone pole, for lack of a better way of putting it, in front of my house, killing my property value a bit. And I agree that it's just as likely to fall over now as it was before it was chopped. So if we could consider getting it chopped down significantly, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Other speakers this evening?
I'm Veronica Pemberton Billing, live in Sooke. Good to be with you again. I'm going to speak to item 10.3, excuse me, that's wrong, 10.5, the climate adaptation natural hazard risk. And I did send it this late date. I'm very sorry I sent it this afternoon. Bulletin on extreme weather and climate change. I'm just going to read a little bit of the summary, I guess, of the time. Speaking about extreme weather, many types of extreme weather. This is from a bulletin of the Fraser Research, compiling all sorts of research on extreme weather. Many types of extreme weather show no signs of increasing and in some cases are decreasing. Drought has shown no clear increasing trend. This is according to the IPCC, the UN International Panel on Climate Change. Drought has shown no clear increasing trend, nor has flooding. Hurricane intensity and number show no increasing trend. Globally, wildfires have shown no clear trend in increasing number or intensity, while in Canada, wildfires have actually been decreasing in number and areas consumed from the 1950s to the present. While media and political activists assert that the evidence for increasing harms from increasing weather is ironclad, it is anything but. In fact, it's quite limited and of low reliability. That's just a little essence. The models created by the UN, International Panel on Climate Change, have been universally badly wrong. Not one model that they have created about the future of climate change and the hazards expected have been even close. They've been diabolically wrong. So for us to base a lot of expenses on this is, I think, invalid. And I'm going to just repeat, 60% of people are renewing their mortgages in the next 2 years and will be suffering. Nearly a quarter of food banks estimate that a quarter of Canadians are living in poverty. We just heard the frustration of a man about taxes. For us to spend $150,000 on this study, I think is dramatically out of line at this moment. And I'd appreciate a second opportunity if there's time to complete. Thank you very much. That's 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'll look to see if there are other speakers who wish to present tonight. Okay, if you want to return a second time, and then that'll be our final
Thank you.
presenter tonight.
Do I need to press again? No, we're off. We're going. Okay. So I think this is out of,
You will need to reintroduce yourself.
oh, I'm sorry, Veronica Pemberton Billing, Sooke. Glad to be with you again. I do think this is an unnecessary expense. And I will say that, again, Canada is 30 or 31 out of 31 countries in the Organization for Economic Development. We're at the bottom of the list for GDP, projected to have the worst GDP for the next 40 years. We've got to curtail government spending and the costs on people. So I will say that. I would also say in my cursory examination of the proposal that associated engineering, which is not being recommended by staff, and I'm sorry I couldn't do a total review, they in 2021 did for the CRD a coastal flood inundation mapping study, which I believe included Sooke. So we could go to work with that. If you look at the difficulties that we might be accepting, one is fire. The IPCC does not say fire is a function of global warming. We pretty much know what to do, which is forest management and go after the arsonists. Those are provincial responsibilities, and we could be pressuring them to pursue either human negligence or human arson and upping their game with forest fire management. In addition to flooding, well, the CRD has this coastal flood plan prepared by Associated Engineering. Maybe we could do that. And I think those are the big two things that we consider. And I just don't think this report now is valuable and is necessary. Would it make a difference? Perhaps, but I just don't think it's necessary. And the final thing I would say is a big component of doing the support is to have future grants. This is a shell game. Let's spend $150,000 of tax money to get more money of taxpayers from another level of government to do more. I really would like council to take a leadership for all the regions on this and not proceed with this.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so that concludes our public question and comment period. So we'll move into item 9, which is our consent agenda. So this is where items for information, decisions from previous committee work all flows to. And then the items here are all listed. And so it is that the following items on the consent agenda be adopted by consent, but any member of council can pull any item for individual discussion, in which case there is a place reserved towards the end of the meeting for that, and correspondence will flow to the next regular meeting. So I'll look then for a mover to move the consent agenda. That's moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by St. Pierre. Councillor Pearson would like to pull something? Maybe in the microphone, and I don't know what you're pulling.
Yep. Thank you, through the chair. I'd like to pull 39I, River Way Playground Zone and Speeding Drivers.
39. Okay, that's
39.
correspondence 39I.
Yeah.
That will flow to our next regular meeting.
Perfect.
Councillor St. Pierre, anything? Okay, so I'll just call the question then. All those in favor, please. And any opposed? That's carried unanimously then. And that takes us to item 10, which is our report section. So the first item here, 10.1, is in regards to our recent local by-election. The resolution would be that the declaration of the official results for the 2025 local by-election be received for information in accordance with the requirement of Section 158 of the Local Government Act. It's moved by Councillor Bateman and seconded by St. Pierre. Any comments, Councillor Bateman?
No, congratulations again to Mr. Haldane and all those who ran and kept our democracy healthy and alive with a really strong voter turnout this time, as we saw in the report. And yeah, onwards to 2026, October, we do it again.
Councillor St. Pierre.
Just wanted to say thank you to staff for running such a good election. They did a lot of work, and I noticed that some people are missing, probably resting, so good for them.
Okay, thank you. Anything from anyone else? It's below 20%. You think that's strong?
Well, for a by-election in BC, it is
I
actually.
suppose the average is 10%, I think. So it was higher. There was comments that the turnout would be low, but the by-election results turnout was higher than what it was in the September of 2019 election and significantly higher than the April election held in Esquimalt. So it's not that bad, even though it's still only under 17%. Okay, so welcome, Councillor Haldane. I'll call the question. All in favor, please? And that's carried unanimously. The next one is 10.2, cash in lieu of parkland dedication for 5627 Woodlands Road, ENG 08723, or sorry, 03723. I'll turn this over to staff, please, for their report.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and through Your Worship to Council, in alignment with the previous Council resolution that Council accept the cash in lieu for the required 5% parkland dedication per Section 510 of the Local Government Act. The applicant or owner of the property has put forward an appraised value. Staff has negotiated with the applicant and they've landed on an acceptable amount from staff as well as the applicant in the amount of $42,600. The following resolution is before council for consideration.
In regards to the comment made earlier by a member of the public about the trail that was dedicated, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that work was done in instead of infrastructure upgrades that were part of our policy structure to do. So there was an agreement where I think we issued a variance to allow for that. And this was known that there would be an additional parkland dedication on top of that. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. This one's specific to the local government requirement under Section 510 for the 5% parkland for cash in lieu.
Okay, over to Councillor Beddoes.
I was just going to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that council accept 42,600 in cash in lieu of parkland dedication pursuant of Section 510 of the Local Government Act based on the market value of $852,000 for the property at 5627 Woodland Road. That's my motion.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. So to speak to it, go ahead, Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I'm willing to accept staff's recommendation. They were in negotiation with the landowner and they seem to have come up with a solution. So I'm all for it.
Councillor St. Pierre? Nope. Comments from anyone else? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I'm commenting, and I again should have jumped in quicker for questions.
You can still ask a
Okay,
question.
so staff has come up with a 979 estimation of the value of this property, which was assessed this year for $1,212,000 or 1.2 million, excuse me. Within this report, there is a statement that the projected lot sale revenue would be $2.2 million effectively. So I'm curious as to the rationale for the 979 and what basis do you use for this? Because if I'm looking here in the applicant's report, that $2 million projected lot sale revenue on the 4 lots that we approved back in 2020, that would surely have been the fee simple market value, as I understand these things are based.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Bateman, my understanding is it's based on the $1.2 million that staff came up with. So basically, it would be the 5% of the 1.2, and the developer was in, I believe, at under 8 in the high 7s. So for us to challenge that assessment that the developer put forward, the district would have to consult with an independent appraiser, which would probably cost $5,000 to $6,000. If that appraisal came back not in aligned with the developer's appraisal, we would have to get a third-party appraisal at another cost of $5,000 to $6,000. So we basically negotiated to avoid those extra costs for the district as well as the developer, and we landed at a happy medium of the $42,000.
I mean, just again, I'm unclear if the proposed lot sale revenue is $2 million. Why would that not be the benchmark for this?
I will follow up with our land development manager and I can report back to you.
Yeah, that's on page 103 of the assessor's report or of the agenda.
Mr. Marshall?
Yeah, it's my understanding through Your Worship to Councillor Bateman, it's my understanding that when these appraisals are done, they're done on the existing value of the property, not the future value of the property. So the future value of the
four lots being sold isn't what's taken into account. It's what the value of the entire property prior to subdivision is worth.
So my ham-fisted research tells me that the valuation considers the property's full potential without any restrictions from existing leases or other interests. That's a Google search, which is undoubtedly.
Counselor Pearson.
Yep, through the chair to our Director of Engineering. So in that area.
Can you direct your comments
Oh,
to me?
yeah. I can't ask questions. So through the chair what other opportunities do we have in that area for parkland acquisition? If we're selling off parkland at 5% value, are we losing out? Because we've developed quite a bit of land on Woodlands Road now. So, it's building out to be more of a new neighborhood. And are there more opportunities for parkland in that area? Green space at parkland.
Potentially, but I'll see if staff have an answer for that.
Through your worship, Councillor Pearson, I don't have a direct answer for that, but we could address this and look at that through the PTMP midpoint review, which is scheduled for fall winter this year.
Oh. Never mind.
I think part of the conversation at the time, if I recall, is that due to proximity to the C2C Greenbelt that is just up Harborview from here, is that there is a significant regional park in the area, though it's not a municipal park.
And my comment comes along, like, I don't have a problem with cash in lieu where it's appropriate and the C2C Greensbelt, but we have now a gravel trail that I've walked that goes from nowhere to nowhere and the worst part of that hill is now doesn't have a gravel trail, right? It comes up there and then you're forced to come out onto a very narrow road on Harborview on the other side. So sometimes we do what appear to be the right thing and then there's not a lot of benefit to that. Anyways.
So I'm hearing that we should have asked for the frontage to all have been done at the time.
Maybe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Haldane.
Yes, thank you. I'm just curious, as we've talked in the past about negotiation process. So am I to understand that we have a negotiating process for cash in lieu now? Through the chair?
I don't think the cash in lieu is debatable. I think it's the value. So there is always going to be at least a 5% cash or parkland dedication required. That itself is not negotiable.
Well, I just heard the term negotiating being used.
That is to determine the value of the land. Right? Yes, I'm just looking at Mr. Carter. It is what the appraised value is. That is where the district staff had a number and the applicant had a number and they resolved and worked out a different number.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy with the negotiating process, but I've been told in the past that the district suit does not negotiate. So I'm happy that it's on record that we do negotiate now. So I'm happy with the results.
Maybe. Mr. Carter?
Through your worship to Councillor Lillette, no, we do not negotiate. The 5% is a set under the Local Government Act, and in terms in cash in lieu under our new development standards bylaw, it is a fixed fee for cash in lieu. So there's equality between everyone paying cash in lieu. The negotiating was based on the negotiation on the assessed value of the land, which is a little bit different.
Anything from anyone else? The item has been moved and seconded, so I will call the question. All those in favor, please? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay. Next up is item 10.3, which is our 2025 second quarter financial report.
Good evening, everyone. Through the mayor to council and members of the public, I'm here to present the second quarter financial report. How come it doesn't work? Covering the first 6 months from January 1st through the end of June this year. All figures presented today are unaudited, and there will be some adjustments near year end. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the district's financial activity for the first half a year, compare the results with the 2025 budget and the comparable first 6 months in 2024. The district's total operating revenues reached 37 million, or 93% of the annual budget of 39 million. Compared to 90% in the second quarter 2024, we're doing better than last year. The total operating expenses reached 8.9 million, or 43% of the annual budget of 20.8 million. This is slightly below the 2024 level of 45%. So percentage-wise, during the first 6 months this year, we brought in more revenues and spent less than last year, which is a good thing. Following accounting principles, we will break down the quarterly financial review into general fund and sewer fund. Let's look at general fund first. Property tax is the major revenue source of revenues. We budgeted $14.4 million for municipal operations, and we have reached that target. Utility tax and grants in lieu are on track as well. In terms of revenues generated from planning and development, we have exceeded 50% on building, plumbing, and development variance permits. However, other fees are lower than expected. The red line on the chart represents a benchmark of 50% at mid-year point. Subdivision, rezoning, and development permit fees on the left-hand side of the chart are below the benchmark. So the lower numbers are due to a slowing down in the economy and uncertainty of tariffs. Staff don't see us reaching 100% of budget level on subdivisions, rezoning, and development permit fee by the end of this year. We have seen a surge in business license fees, as demonstrated on the chart. The red is the budgeted amount of 90,000, and the blue is the actual business license fees received at 118,000, which is 30% above the planned amount. BC government has introduced a provincial short-term rental registry to help increase housing availability and crack down on illegal short-term rental operations. So this triggered an increase in B&B registration, with the business license fee increased accordingly. So let's look at the general fund expenditures for each service. All services operating expenses are at or below the 50% benchmark. The RCMP spending is on track with budget. We have included estimated 869,000 for the second quarter service charge because their billing typically is behind. And the RCMP has a funded strength of 14 members and current utilization of 11.75, up from 10.4 members last year. And fire services expense is on track overall. However, overtime is trending high with $60,000 spent by the end of June, compared to $75,000 for the entire year of 2024, which amounts to about 60% increase than last year. This is due to the limited use of paid-on-call firefighters earlier in the year, which has been addressed during the IAFF bargaining process. On the general government front, the budget is 50% expended, reflecting complete payments for community grants and service agreements. Planning, development, engineer, subdivision, and parks operating expenditures on track and below the 50% benchmark. That is all for general fund. Let's look at sewer fund. Revenues. So we have received $557,975 connection capital charges from the Sooke First Nation. This amount was not budgeted and will provide a surplus. In addition, some new constructions and corrections on billing generated $194,000 as the sewer generation charge surplus. So overall, the sewer fund achieved $4 million in revenues, and that gave us a surplus about $781,000. Sewer fund operating expense is at $819,000, less than half of the budget amount of $3 million. job vacancies, a fall in the expense for chemicals contributed to the budget surplus. So to put sewer revenues and expense on the same chart, the red is the benchmark and the blue represents the actuals. Using 100% as the benchmark for revenues, we have reached 124% and exceeded the revenue expected for the entire year of 2025. The expense are at 27%, below the 50% half-year benchmark, and we expect them to stay low below the budget at year-end. We have made operational upgrades and that have reduced overtime significantly. Also, we have made changes to our process and will hopefully continue to see a fall in the expenses for chemicals. To summarize, sewer revenues are above expectation and expenses are way below the planned amount, and it's highly likely that the sewer fund will have a surplus at the end of 2025. Here are some updates on major capital projects. The Little River Crossing Bridge project is anticipated to have a fall 2025 opening. Additional work is identified on Phillips Bridge repairs. However, the total project cost will still be within the approved budget. Ravens Ridge Sport Box had a substantial completion in June, and West Coast Road Force Main should be finished by the end of July. To summarize, at the mid-year point, the district's total revenues are better than expected. Expenses are on track, and major capital projects are on budget and on time. So looking ahead, we have the MRDT hotel tax approved with a revenue of $400,000 to $700,000 each year. There will be about $6,000-7,000 added to the MRDT revenue by the end of this year. So great news, and that finished my presentation. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation as well as the provided report. I'll look to council for any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
Yes, through the chair. Thank you, Director of Finance. So on property taxes, which is 100% of our revenue, lumping a couple things together, the business license is up 131%. Have we seen a ratio of commercial taxes? It's not broken down from residential to commercial. Are we seeing an improvement in our commercial tax base as a result of more business licenses?
Through the mayor, I will look into the details. However, the ratio between commercial and residential tax was already determined by the mill rates.
Right.
When council approved.
I mean, percentage of what we take in. I think it was 84% last year. Is that something what was?
Yeah, that ratio actually was established in the bylaw, like we don't change that.
Are we seeing an increase in the ratio between commercial taxes and residential taxes?
I will look into the numbers. Are you asking the question about the collection, like how much is paid?
Yeah.
I have to look into the cash.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the second question is the sewer. We got a 557K influx from Sooke First Nation. Do we have any anticipated expenses with the infrastructure, or does the infrastructure not belong to us that's serving?
Through the mayor, I'm not qualified to answer that question. I'm going to pass to Mr. Carter, please.
So, sorry, can you be more specific on the question?
Okay, so First Nations paid us 557K. But along with that 557K, there's an infrastructure somewhere in the ground. Is that now ours?
No, that was a capital expansion fee. So that is the fee that they pay to basically come into the system. They own the infrastructure that goes from their reserve all the way connecting to our wastewater treatment plant. And there is a license of occupation for that right away.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So then we don't have any anticipated repairs or anything like that that comes along from that line?
No.
Excellent. Thank you.
To share, Councillor Pearson, you said that 100% of our revenue comes from property tax.
Well, no, just on that one slide, it said, I
Okay.
get it.
Because we get revenue from multiple sources. Okay. Counselor St. Pierre? Yes, go ahead.
Through your worship, I was curious as to what the surplus in that we've got with the water treatment, where can that go to, and how does it get treated? Where does that surplus end up?
The surplus for the wastewater remains in the wastewater reserve account, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
And I'm assuming that we have bylaws and policies in terms of how it can be dispersed and spent, correct?
Yes, through your worship. Yeah, any sewer surplus has to stay within the sewer budget and to be used in a reserve fund for anything related to sewer specifically, not for expansion of the system or anything like that, for the current residents in the system.
So
It
for
has
the
to
current
stay
residents.
in the sewer system.
Yeah,
It's
current
being
residents
paid.
within the sewer specified area. It has to stay specifically in the sewer operations and management.
Okay, so I had a further question, but I think that did answer. I'll check just to be sure. So I was curious as to whether or not this money could be leveraged in terms of accessing grant opportunities, but it sounds like not so much unless the grants were to maintain the existing system or some such.
Correct. Like the sewer money has to stay within the sewer. It's used by the current, or it's applicable to the current payers of the system at the time. So, depending on the grant and whatever, it could be an option depending on, because some of the grants are for new plus fixing and enhancing old, but, it would just depend. But, definitely that's something we can give you a bit more details on, throughout the rest of the year here as we talk about, the unwinding of this current sewer bylaw.
Mr. Carter, anything?
Well, I was just saying, in short answer, yes, you can use it to offset some grants. If the grant is for applicable upgrades to the system, there's going to be a portion of that that's going to benefit the existing users in the area for sure, because it's replacing asset management. So there would be a capacity increase component and an existing asset management component. So yes, it could be partially used to leverage grants.
Counselor Haldane?
Through the chairs, is the district allowed to borrow money from, I mean, if we have reserve funds in other accounts, are we entitled to borrow money from those other reserve funds if we agree to pay it back?
I think it depends on what we're borrowing for, but I'll ask Ms. Liu to answer that, if we can borrow against our own reserves.
through the mayor, yes, we could do internal borrowing between different funds, but that will go through council's approval for sure.
And interest applies and stuff like that. It's not just a interest-free loan. There'd be a whole process. That would be.
So the funds aren't stuck somewhere. If we needed access to those funds for road building or something else, we could access these funds through a council resolution, obviously.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that's what I'm hearing. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Counselor Bateman?
Yeah, thanks for this report. I'm curious about the RCMP numbers here. So 46% is actual spending of the 2025 budget. Is that down to the fact that they're 2 officers short?
Through the mayor, yes, they're a little bit understaffed compared to the budget. I think that's why there's a little surplus.
All right. And in terms of those grants that you've listed in the report, we have a number of major ones outstanding. Can I get a quick update on when we may be hearing back about those grant applications to the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund and the active Transportation Fund?
Thank you for the questions. Through the mayor, I would like Mr. Carter to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Bateman. I've reached out to the grant partners just recently over the next couple of weeks. They give no indication, but what we anticipate is to probably hear within the first quarter, hopefully in 2026. I don't see it going too far into the second quarter, so we will provide an update. And if we get any information from the grant partners, we'll report directly to council.
Thank you.
Counselor St. Pierre?
I'd like to move that council receive the 2025 second quarter financial operating report for information.
Okay, that's moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Beto. Speaking to it, go ahead, Counselor St. Pierre.
Well, it looks all like good news and we're on track. So thank you very much for all the work and thanks for the good news. It's nice to get some.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Beto.
Yeah, it was a good news story for sure. And thanks for that information.
Anything from anyone else? Go ahead.
So I'll just be a broken record here, and just from where we were in 2018 to today, these quarterly and semi-annual financial updates have been rolling in since I think at least 2021, I think it was, or so. So thank you very much to the Finance Department for this good work, transparent communication.
Okay, anything else? Great to hear that all of our capital projects are on track and under budget. So look forward to sort of a completion report, because then if there's leftover funds, it would be a discussion as to where we're going to roll those into, or what may remain outstanding. But on that, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please. Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next up is 10.4, sponsorship contribution policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this item follows Council's May 26 direction to develop a suite of community investment program policies grounded in equity, capacity building, financial sustainability, and alignment with strategic priorities. The draft sponsorship contribution policy provides guidance on how the district supports community events through financial or in-kind sponsorships in exchange for public recognition, with the goal of simplifying processes while also enhancing accountability. It reflects a made-in-Sooke approach that responds to the needs of our local organizations. This is one of 3 forthcoming policies in the suite, alongside a service agreement policy and an updated community grant policy, both anticipated for council consideration in September. Key features of the draft policy include reducing administration for applicants and the district while maintaining accountability, fiscal responsibility, and transparency, promoting fairness in how support is accessed and distributed across the community, establishing approval thresholds, and please note that there is an inconsistency between the draft policy at $250, which emerged from stakeholder discussions, and the initial council direction of $100, which is noted in the staff report. The draft policy indicates council approval be required for contributions above that staff approval threshold and any multi-year requests. Introducing a maximum annual threshold per sponsorship to be set by council hopefully this evening, and taking a systems approach by incorporating total annual allocations into the district's budget process. Lastly, I'd like to acknowledge the public input for a sponsorship toolkit and note that I agree with their recommendation. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions and appreciate council's confirmation of the sponsorship threshold to advance the updated policy framework, and I will leave you with the recommendations on the screen.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if there's questions for our staff member, Councillor St. Pierre.
Through your worship, it wasn't actually covered quite in the report, so I'm curious as to where it might be covered. And there have been cases where members of the public have been interested in potentially helping out with, requests that came to council. Do we have any mechanism, or this doesn't seem to be where that sort of thing will be handled? Where will that sort of thing be handled? Because obviously it would be nice to have some sort of policy framework and mechanism for actually allowing that to happen.
Thank you for the question. I believe it might be addressed in part through the service agreement. So that would be recognized in looking to council to set those service specifications and then identified through a service agreement policy. So that's where that would be captured. And as mentioned, looking to bring that forward likely to the, I believe it's the September 8th council meeting.
Okay. Other questions? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, thanks for this. The approval thresholds, I'm a little confused. So in your report, you say $100, and then in the policy itself, it refers to $250 per year. So I think you mentioned that. Explain it again to the old man.
I apologize. That was my mistake. So when we had first discussed this and I talked with council about the community investment program, council had given me the direction to set that threshold at $100 for staff delegation. But then during consultation at the same time, council also provided direction for me to do some consultation with community groups. They had indicated $250. So as I was taking my notes in the draft policy, and I didn't, that was completely my error. So.
Okay. All right. And we're talking here about a $12,500 annual sponsorship funding budget.
The recommendation would be to take a look. This is sort of emerging. It's again, that made-in-Sooke solution. So looking at kind of a combination of a sponsorship and grant and aid program together. So rather than indicating that we're setting a threshold at $12,500 today, setting that sponsorship threshold in the greater context with budget discussions as a whole.
Councillor Pearson.
Yes, through the chair. Thank you. Thank you for the report. And thank you for taking good notes when we were talking about the amount of money. I think that I'm really comfortable with the $250 myself personally, because the $100 just seems like, what you can buy for $100 now. So, but I think it will go a long ways in streamlining this process and making it simpler. So, yeah, good presentation and thank you.
Okay, did you have another question? Okay, I think Councillor St. Pierre has a question, but then I'll come back to you to move the motion. How about that? Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
Thank you. Through your worship to staff again. I was just curious about, the sponsorship seems to be really well aligned with MRDT. When might that actually start coming together? And maybe I know the process was described to me. If you could just provide some details on what that's going to look like.
I'll do my best to answer this question at this moment in time. We're still getting a bit more information as to the MRDT implementation, but that framework, the province approved a specific action plan associated with MRDT funding. So we would have to do some checks and balances to make sure it aligns with that approved plan. However, that's part of what's informing some of this direction to look at those out years. So up to a 4-year term, should council wish to enter into a multi-year agreement. So if it is a tourism-based activity, based on my understanding of MRDT, it would be a potentially an eligible expense. So it's a new opportunity outside of general taxation to fund some of these initiatives that have historically been funded through general property taxation.
Thank you.
I just have a question on the reporting matter. So in the event that the threshold is set at $250 and that's where staff would have the ability to grant that sponsorship, how is council informed? Would that then flow on to the CAO report? And we would see just an item there?
Thank you for the question. So there would be 2 avenues. One would be a new dashboard on the new website for again, our commitment to that transparency and accountability with the public, in addition to following through on the CAO's report.
Okay, thank you. The other piece, in the event that the sponsorship budget is exhausted and the next avenue is council contingency, what happens then? Do those requests then come to council because the sponsorship fund has been depleted?
Correct. So if staff do not have the authority, so whether that be by the trigger of the $250 threshold or that the sponsorship budget has been exhausted, then that would be a decision of council. So we'd bring that report forward to you.
Okay, thank you. That might then trigger something else, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'll turn to Councillor Pearson to make the motion, please.
And just before I start, Chair, I whispered to Mr. Haldane that MRTT stands for Municipal Regional Destination Tax. So I was kind of whispering on the side here and I didn't mean to be disrespectful. Sometimes we talk in acronyms and so, okay, anyways, the motion that council repeal the community grant sponsorship policy C003 first, and that council adopt the amended sponsorship contribution policy number CO-030, establishing the maximum sponsorship contribution threshold at $250, and that council determine the annual sponsorship budget as a part of the 2026 budget deliberations to be considered within the broader context of policy development and service levels, including the forthcoming community grants policy and service agreement policy.
Okay, that's been moved. It's seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Would you like to motivate on the motion, Councillor?
No, I think there's been great discussion already. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
No, I agree with Councillor Pearson, but I do note.
Okay. Over to our staff, please.
Sorry, if I may, just seeking a point of clarification. So the maximum sponsorship contribution, what we're hoping to identify is the threshold, the high threshold. So is that $5,000? Is it $2,500 that council would approve as a single sponsor per year? So although
Okay.
the staff delegation has been identified as $250, we can make sure that's captured in the policy, but wanting to also confirm. So in the draft policy, you'll see it was in red for council to specify that high threshold. So depending on what that amount is, if you wanted to set it in the policy.
So Councillor Pearson did say $250 when he read out the motion. But you're looking for something other than that?
Yes, if I may.
I'm not,
So for
I
a
need to
single,
know what you're,
certainly.
I'm not following this right now. I thought it was the 250 where I'm not seeing anything in red on my agenda. So can you point me exactly like what? Where should I be
Certainly,
looking?
I'm just pulling this screen up.
Which
So it is on it's coming up as page 3 for me, and I know it's coming up as something different for you guys. So just wondering, for a single contribution, if you wish to set that amount for awarding to a single group at the high level. I believe it's on page 161 of your agenda.
Okay, just a sec.
So this is where it would read monetary requests of up to $250 per year and in-kind contributions that can be accommodated within existing staff capacity may be approved by staff. And then monetary requests between $251 and whatever that high threshold is that council wishes to identify per year, including multi-year commitments must be approved by council.
Okay, I see. So
Sorry
this
about
is what the high threshold is. Okay, so Counselor Pearson, did you have something in mind or should I go?
Well, when we were talking about it, so the history is that when we were talking about it before, we saw many applications come in at 1,000 or less. And I was thinking 1,000 would be the high threshold, but the 250 was the sort of,
The steps.
the delegated part. So, but I'm
Okay.
open to discussion. I thought 1,000 because we've seen different sports teams come in and, you know, $600 to $800 to $1,000 seems to be that what is common. And I'm just doing this.
Okay, so Counselor Pearson I'm going to go with $1,000 as the mover.
Yes.
Has indicated that is the seconder in agreement with that. Otherwise, we'll need to look at an amending motion. Counselor St. Pierre is the seconder.
I'm looking for clarification, Your Worship.
Okay.
I'm also a little bit confused right now. So just to confirm, this is strictly for one time. This has nothing to do with the multi-year agreements that would be potentially between 2,500 and 5,000. That's something to be determined as per the third part of the resolution, which is annual sponsorship budget and so on and so forth. Is that correct? To your worship?
Sorry, I'm just processing to see if I heard that correctly. So single year at $1,000 is what you're saying in that example. And then a multi-year would not be are you indicating $1,000 per year to a maximum of $4,000 combined? Or are you indicating multi-year agreements at a base of 2,500 to, sorry, if I can put that question back for clarification.
What I'm asking here is, as we set a threshold of 1,000, we're not limiting the multi-year agreements to 1,000. Okay, I'll just go with that. That's what I really needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, so you're in agreement with the motion then. Okay, we'll just leave the main motion that it's at 1,000. Counselor Beddoes now.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still a little confused. So the smaller amount of 250, that's at staff's discretion, correct? And then anything over that, our threshold is $1,000 when it comes to us. Okay, just want that clarified. Thank you.
So that would mean as we get requests from groups that in regards to sponsorship, that it's setting it at $1,000 maximum under the sponsorship policy. Okay. No, up to. Okay, Counselor Bateman?
Would it be a friendly amendment to add at council's discretion, if indeed it's something we'd like to sponsor in a more significant manner? A simple option here would give us that leeway.
Okay, let's get clarity then, in the event that the ask is over $1,000, then how does that play out? Because I'm trying to now follow this new policy. So then what happens?
Maybe I'll start and Ms. Mo can carry on. I believe if any, like happens with anything that's in excess of a policy or a bylaw, then a decision point would be put in front of council and your option to waive the policy would be considered as a council resolution or recommendation potentially, if it was above the amount. Like, for example, I think the next sponsorship on this agenda is for $5,000 for one
Yes.
event, which is where I think Ms. Moog was trying to come to. Do we want to communicate proactively with people looking for sponsorship from the district that for council's just recently endorsed this policy that sets a maximum ask of $1,000 per organization, is what the direction she was looking for versus, or is it going to be up to 5,000? We just are trying to manage the expectations with the community and the public on what the maximum ask should be for council. Not saying people can't ask for more and there will be a process for them to request more. It's just, we're trying to, manage the expectations of what the parameters could be. Every organization asking for 5,000 will add up very fast, obviously. So I think that's where the $1,000 for et cetera, and knowing there's an ask for $5,000 on the agenda tonight was kind of just trying to set an example of where this could go.
Okay, however, the policy does say that there are in extenuating circumstances, then council would then access contingency rather than the sponsorship budget for sponsorship. So there would be a set amount with a max of $1,000 per sponsor in the sponsorship budget. Next year, we'll set out what that budget's going to be. And anything beyond that, we wouldn't turn to sponsorship. We would go to contingency and then examine that, provided there's funds available. Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
Okay, and again, just to clarify, but it's my understanding that in the case of something like the request that's coming forward later in the evening, we were potentially looking at a multi-year agreement that would fall under a slightly different stream.
That would then go to service agreement.
Right.
Yes.
This would no longer be, at this point, ideally, once all of these policies are laid out, this might be the last time that we
Yes.
actually do this sort of thing. And, we'll get through it tonight and that's that. But following that, the 1,000 would be what would be happening, and anything much larger and more regular would be looking at a service agreement.
Yeah.
And again, potentially funded by MRDT and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, and then that would replace what we've used in the past is called line items. They are designated lines in the budget, but there's a service agreement with deliverables and expectations attached to it.
But that would no longer be sponsorship, that'd be a service agreement.
No, that would be a service agreement or an addendum to one.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, or a new one. Okay. It's clear to everybody. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded then, so I will call the question. All those in favor, please? Any opposed? None opposed, it's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Just to follow up on that item as a business arising, there was a question about the district producing a sign that would be loaned out to user groups. Did I hear you answer that question? That is something of note that will be in the works. So no motion required. Staff is on it. We'll have the sign that can be signed in and out. Okay, thank you. Next up is 10.5, Climate Adaptation and Natural Hazard Risk Assessment Report.
Thank you, and to your worship and to members of council. There's no real formal presentation for this. The information is within the report for those who wanted to dive a little bit deeper. Just for some quick background, this is a continuation of the work that we've been currently undertaking with our major emergency plan. If you can recall, we presented the initial work on the plan back in May, where we looked at the framework of the actual emergency plan and then the strategies that we've outlined for the next 3 years. So one of those objectives that was identified, and it's important to note that it's actually required under the new Emergency and Disaster Management Act, was the need for a formal hazard risk assessment. So this project, which is completely funded through a successful grant that we've already secured through the UBCM, the last piece to this RFP process is just this council recommendation. So we had 3 district staff who evaluated the proposals independently using a structured scoring matrix. Our recommended proposal was unanimous amongst the 3 evaluators who all had them as their top scoring submission. The recommendation is based on several elements such as value, local knowledge, their engagement approach, and their relevant experience. So we feel that working with this consultant group really positions ourselves to deliver a high quality, locally grounded, and an all hazard assessment for the District of Sooke. So I'll leave it at that. And if there's questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Okay, thank you, Chief Kennedy. So as you had indicated, this is a requirement under Emergency and Disaster Management Act that was adopted by the province late November 2023. The funding that we have received here is not our property taxes per se. It's a grant through the Union of BC Municipalities. And then they in turn receive the funding from the province of BC directly. So perhaps I know that some members of the public spoke in opposition to this. However, you may want to raise that directly with our MLA, as we are simply doing requirements under that legislation. And that's where it's likely through general advocacy by local governments that if we do this work, we also need to recognize the cost impact, which is why they've provided with the grant, although it's our people that are doing the work in the day-to-day. And that is an ongoing part of why we're always seeking a new property tax framework. So other than that, I have no other questions. I'll turn to members of council. Someone prepared to move the motion? Councillor St. Pierre, go ahead. Read the motion, please.
That council award the Climate Adaptation Natural Hazard Risk Assessment, CANHRA, project to Logic Lead Consulting Limited.
It's moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor?
Yes. Aside from the fact that we're actually legally mandated to provide this risk assessment due to new legislation, and that it's actually being paid for by the province, in a roundabout way, given that they're actually demanding it, that's kind of nice. I would like to note that based on information that I've been receiving through, for example, the CRD Climate Action Task Force, recent surveys indicate that about 90% of people are concerned about climate. 70% are very concerned about climate, and about 50% are desperately concerned. We have to take a position of leadership, and we have to show them that we're actually doing things. In this particular case, just trying to make sure that we know where our risks actually lie in case of trouble is actually just good management. And getting solid information to do that just makes sense.
Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, so I agree with that. I did have a look through the emergency management plan program. What's the title? Yeah, and this is objective 2 of 8, and it is a critical piece of this ongoing 23-year program strategy. There will be the next objective is the mitigating of risks. That's wildfire, flood, earthquake, rather critically, and extreme weather mitigation. So this is best practice work as mandated by the province. So great work. And Logic Lead Consulting, interestingly, has done some work with us already, and I think that will dovetail well with Mr. Ryland Bennett. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers, Councillor Haldane?
Yeah, I don't agree with this policy at all. If we talk about leadership, leadership is also fiscally responsible. And I don't believe this is a necessary when we are in a financial crisis. Our community's tax rates have been going up 15% a year. And at this point, I just don't believe that spending this kind of money on basically information is worth the $150,000. So I'm going to be voting against it. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. It's not our district policy, though. It's a requirement under provincial legislation. Other comments? Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, and when this came up and we understand that we have to provide this information as required by the province, what can I ask a question to the chief?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any through the chair, do you have any foregone conclusions of what the report's going to show us, where our risks might lie? Like, because the report's going to give us an assessment, then the work actually begins actually after the assessment, because once it's pointed out, then we've got some work to do, right? That's going to be the part that's kind of scaring me. But
Yeah, through your worship. I don't know if I have any conclusions, I think it's going to validate a lot of the things that we probably already have as a concern. It may show some things that we haven't considered. I guess that's part of the process that we're going to undertake.
And as an example, I mean, I don't know the level of the detail that they're asking, but one road in, one road out, is that going to be part of this assessment?
I think the risk pieces will be part of the assessment, how we look to mitigate some of those pieces and plan for things like evacuation because of the hazards. That would be a different piece altogether, I think.
Yeah, and I asked that question because if the province is asking us to identify what our risks are, they might have some skin in the game, actually. So, thank you.
Report might show that. However, some of the work we're already doing is when the sandbag station opens up to help residents with flooding, tree work, fire smarting. You know, it's sort of ongoing. Okay. Okay, I will call the question then. All those in favor, please. And opposed is Councillor Haldane. That carries. Thank you. Moving on to item, yes? Oh, yes, there's been a call for a health break. It's currently 7:25, so we will recess for 10 minutes and reconvene at 7:35. If you could synchronize your clocks. Okay, everyone, we are now at 7:35, so we will continue on with tonight's meeting and move into item 12, motions for which notice has been given. Or, because there's no new business. All right, so this one here is notice that I've provided, and I will read this out. Whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, represents the interests of member municipalities on policy and program matters that fall within federal jurisdiction. And whereas FCM's Board of Directors is comprised of elected municipal officials from all regions and sizes of communities to form a broad base of support and provide FCM with the united voice required to carry the municipal message to the federal government. Therefore, be it resolved that Council of the District of Sooke endorse Maya Teague to serve as a committee member on committees of FCM's Board of Directors for the period starting in June 2025 until the end of the council term of October 2026, and that council assume all costs associated with Maya Teague attending FCM meetings. Look for Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Bateman has moved it and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. I'm just going to add a little bit of context here that I have served as both a committee member and as a board member on the FCM through my capacity as the president and first vice president of the Union of BC Municipalities. I also did serve part of a term as a committee member, but then needed to step off when I was seeking a federal nomination. There is a code of conduct, as this is a non-partisan organization, that you cannot be nominated or seeking nomination of a party. So that is what led me to step off. I am no longer a candidate, a nominee, or seeking a nomination. So therefore, I would like to serve in this capacity again. I'll also share that through the Union of BC Municipalities, there is the small community travel fund of which the District of Sooke is eligible to access, and that would cover flight and accommodation costs regarding the travel portion. However, there's, I think, only 2 meetings that are travel related. The rest are virtual meetings held over Teams. The cost to the district would be per diem when meals are not included as part of the program. Sometimes they are and sometimes they are, depending. So I'll leave it at that. I'll go to the mover first, if you would like to comment or ask questions.
Well, I think it's just wonderful that you've got the energy and the abilities to step up and do this additional level of work. You manage the UBCM presidency extremely well, and I think it is a benefit to Sooke to have you operating at these levels.
Thank you very much, Councillor St. Pierre.
I think you've already addressed the questions that I had, which was, do we have enough contingency to cover the potential costs? It sounds like we're looking at per diems and limited, that hotel and travel expenses are actually covered through a different funding agency. As such, I agree with what Councillor Bateman had to say, which is it's good to have strong representation at the federal level to bring our concerns forward and to make sure that they're being addressed. So thank you.
There is a process to be selected, so I would simply be filling out an application and putting it through. Part of that application requires this resolution to be attached to it. And then ultimately it'll be the president who decides or makes that determination, perhaps in consultation with the other table officers. Our current president is Rebecca Bly, so a BC related president at this time. That wasn't a factor though previously, but that is a process. This, I may not be selected, so, but this is the start of it. Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, and thank you for the clarification when I first saw this, boy. The costs are largely borne by the UBCM, thank you. And my question, I think you answered my question, was the association, because I think you talked about that publicly, about being a member of a political party. And running for that office, because we can't hold an office in FCM if we are, right? Is that correct?
Correct. You could be a member, but you cannot be seeking a nomination or be a nominated candidate.
Okay, and then my last question is that it's a very specific timeline, does the FCM end on the same cycle as British Columbia local elections? Because it's very specific to October 26th.
No, so typically they would look for a 2-year appointments. So this should run until 2027. And that's where they have them staggered across the country so that not everyone is expiring all at the same time with new people coming on. But in this case, I just put it to the end of this council term, which is October 2026. Whereas if next year was not a municipal local government election, then I would probably have said 2027. But next year is the end of the term. And that's where it varies across the provinces are all a bit different. The prairies are kind of together. The cycle though starts in June. So the Federation's board starts in June with the annual convention, which is in June, and it runs till the end of May. Whereas like UBCM is September to September, and other provincial organizations are all a little bit different. So this way, not everyone is onboarding and off at the same time. That makes sense. Yep, go ahead.
Yep, and just for a comment, for those in the audience and watching from home, is that there was no attendees to FCM by anybody on the Sooke Council this year. So we do have in our travel budget, we have some extra room in there. And I think that the costs now are identified as minimal. So I'll be supporting this. So thank you.
The other piece that I'll ask is that we do as a municipality pay dues annually to Union of BC Municipalities to be a member, and it's based on our population. What is unique to Sooke specifically though is I am a life member of the Union of BC Municipalities. There is a slight reduction in those fees. That's going to change when I'm no longer here. You'll be paying the same rate as everyone else with the same population. And my attendance, my annual fees to attend the convention in September are also waived as a life member. And that's been the case since I was the president. We've not paid for that, but that's all going to change. And so even when I'm not elected, you'll see me at future conventions potentially because I can crash them for life. Which is kind of cool. Anything else? I'll go ahead, Councillor Haldane.
As I'm relatively new here, as you know, out on the campaign trail, I mean, my push here, and you're going to hear it from me quite often over the next little while, it's just about fiscal responsibility, the high tax rates that we have right now, and the cost of living for average people in Sooke. So I was going to have some questions about the costs, and you've brought those forward, and I can appreciate that. So I have no issues with it at this point. But again, just going forward, I mean, I'm going to have issues with our costs and our budgetings and our processes. I mean, because that's what people keep asking me about. And I'm the one who's gone through this campaign recently, and believe me, that's the big thing on the doorsteps is people are just at their wits' ends with how much it's costing to stay here, live here, and afford here. So, but I do appreciate the cost of this, and that we can transfer some of the fees to the UBCM board and stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other piece I'll add is some of the advocacy through FCM is recognizing that the property tax framework is largely out of date. And I learned there that it was the model we have in Canada came into play under the reign of Queen Victoria. So that is 2 monarchs ago, is a century old. And yet we are facing modern city challenges in this antiquated system. So part of that that's why membership and participation is important to understand the costs and the impacts of downloading and what we're facing as communities. So thank you for that. Okay. So thank you, everyone. I will call the question on this. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. I will share with you the outcome when I know what that is, which probably won't be till September because of the timelines. So next up, we're moving into our correspondence section, item 13. The first one, correspondence requiring an action, is from the Sooke Community Association. Councillor Haldane.
I still sit on the Sooke Community Association board, so I may step out for this one and then.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. So if you would like to
Yeah.
step out to the hallway there, we will find you when we are finished deliberating.
Yep.
Okay, so within the package here, there is a letter requesting our support of $5,000 towards the salmon luncheon that is available for all attendees. And that is the ask here. That'll be on August the 16th. This is outside of the sponsorship policy. They've also asked that we consider this as an ongoing line item. And so my understanding is that as the service agreements are expiring this year, we could have that conversation when that service agreement comes due on adding it, potentially adding it then as an add-on, as a part of their deliverables and part of a new sponsor or service agreement. But at this point, this is outside of the sponsorship policy that we just adopted. So I think the motion that I'll make then is that council direct staff to support the Sooke Community Association in the amount of 5,000 from council contingency. Okay, and that's seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Okay, so this event is held on August the 16th, a Saturday. There was also an ask that myself be invited to make some opening remarks. I'm not certain that I'm going to be in town, so Councillor Pearson, I'll let you know about that. And then if I'm not available and you're not available, we'll look to a member of council. We'll check to see who's around that could make some comments along with Chief Underwood and our MLA. You are here on that day. Okay, there's just some things up in the air. Councillor St. Pierre?
I noted in the letter, they're also requesting that it be included as a line item, but obviously we're in the process of developing out the framework. I was hoping that in correspondence replying, they could actually, that could be explained to them that we're in the process of getting this sorted out. There's certainly one of the organizations that's being considered for, service agreement or whatever it's going to look like, and maybe explain what's going to be happening because.
Okay, maybe staff, if you're comfortable replying back saying, please pick up the check on this date and ask for your other request as to what Councillor St. Pierre said. We would look to review it later in the year. Okay. All right, anything else? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, my one, absolutely support this as we have in previous years. I'm just curious about whether a formal budget statement might be part of these requests in future. There is a mention here of costs will cover the cost of the salmon and associated barbecue expenses. I absolutely believe that to be the case. It was just, I'd be interested to know how much salmon is being produced for this event and what those costs are, just as we do with the community grant process. That's just a comment. I'm happy to support this.
Okay, I think if possible, it would be nice to know how many attendees and how many fish were served, just from a curiosity perspective. I think they do. Yeah, we can get there. Councillor Pearson, anything else?
Just to put Councillor Bateman's mind at ease, I was in Quality Foods in Parksville last week and I saw one fish for $50 and it was only that big with no head on it. And it was a fresh sockeye. So I thought, wow, $56 for a fish. I do appreciate this getting on the agenda this early, that we don't have to have a special council meeting in the middle of August. So I'll be supporting it.
Okay, perfect. And that's where I think as we see these continue, it would just help to have them roll in and then it just saves the last minute pieces. Okay. All right, I will call the question then. All those in favor, please. Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. We'll have Councillor Haldane return to the room and move on to 13.2, please. Okay, go ahead, Counselor Bateman for 13.2.
Well, this is very straightforward. It's a substantial letter we've received from the owner of Woodside Farm, and it's a subject that I believe the Land Use and Development Committee would be well advised to have a look at. So I'll make the motion that the correspondence from Joshua Perina dated June 27th, 2025, entitled Short-Term Rental Regulation Review, be forwarded for consideration to the Land Use and Development Committee.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded by Counselor Pierce or St. Pierre. Anything else? No, and go ahead.
I'll just comment that Mr. Perino had a conversation with myself and Mr. Marshall at our recent event at the farm, and this is very much a follow-up on that conversation. I think he's got some very good input in terms of things that we need to look at in terms of how we're dealing with basically how the provincial legislation might work better with what we've got internally and what is actually necessary and what will support our tourism industry in the Airbnb sector. So I think this is timely and looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Seeing nothing else, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next one is 13.3 from Oliver Katz, tree stump foreshore Sooke Harbor. We also received some comments earlier. Counselor Beddoes.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. As you're all aware of in council, we received 2 letters in regards to this pruning of this tree down the waterfront on our property. And the residents there, and they're short-term rentals, but it's allowed. They were concerned about how this looked. And so I took it upon myself to go down and have a look. And I was really quite taken aback at how sort of it looked. It was not something I'd want to see in my front yard. It looks like a telephone pole with the top cut off. And I do understand the staff, and I appreciate them looking at the bird habitat. But I don't see that as being anything that the birds would use. An osprey would not put a nest on something that short, neither would an eagle. And it's just a big, long stump. So I sympathetic to Mr. Katz and the other resident, which I'm sorry I don't have that name in front of me, but it's just, I mean, you can see in the pictures here, it's a pretty odd looking thing. So I think it makes sense to trim it down and to like even 5 or 6 feet above the ground. That way the root ball will be there to stabilize the shore. And I have to agree that right now it may not be a hazard, but when there's no foliage on it, that thing will deteriorate really fast and it will become a hazard, and it's right by that trail. So I'd be willing to make a motion that we instruct staff to have that taken down to approximately 6 feet off the ground.
Okay, that's seconded by Counselor Pearson. Okay, so I think we know here that staff cut the tree down to 6 feet. I think you said?
Yeah.
Yep, 6 feet. Okay, and then anything further to add, Counselor?
No, I do. I just want to say I do appreciate staff. They look at the rules and regulations that they're bound by, and it's a nice gesture. But when I look at first of all, how it looks for the aesthetics, it looks terrible. And second is I think the amount of habitat for life on this pole is very minimal at best, and it's a very scenic thing. And these short-term rentals are people that are coming to our community to spend money. And our economic development says we need that desperately. And I just don't see any redeeming value to keep it there. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Pearson.
Yeah, just an anecdotal story about 10 years ago on my driveway. I had a tree pruner come in, and it provided me sort of a natural buffer between my property and the townhouses along my driveway. And I had a tree that was somewhere around 20 inches across, and they came up, took the top off because it was splitting on the top. And when they took the top off, it killed the tree, but it still provided this buffer. This winter, and I'm going to say it was between 10 and 8 years ago, this winter, I looked at it and I had a tree guy come in, and he was doing some other stuff because I have a power line and things. And he said, I think that should come down. And I said, oh, okay. Like not necessarily thinking it, was dangerous. And when it hit the ground, it exploded. And it was somewhere around 8 years old, and it was a lot smaller than this tree. So it will rot from the inside because the water gets on the top. And this tree guy told me, he said, that's unsafe to do that to trees. And I know that there's other professionals that maybe say, leave it or whatever, but he said, no, he recommends not doing it. So anyways, I cut it down. And so it will become a safety hazard in my humble opinion, based on my experience with the tree guy this winter. So anyways.
Okay, thank you. Counselor St. Pierre.
I just have a hope and a concern all at the same time. I know that arborists, generally speaking, will actually leave, a certain amount of tree if it's not going to endanger houses and so on and so forth in order to provide habitat and so on and so forth. This is considered best practice. Generally, it happens in wooded areas and so on and so forth. But I think that we have a situation where we're looking at beautifying the community. We're looking at, tourism and so on and so forth. I think we need to maybe establish parameters so this doesn't happen again. Because at this point, using best practices, any arborist would potentially do the same thing again. But unless we have some kind of rules that actually provide better guidelines for what we actually want to see, we're just going to have this happen again. So I don't know if this is a request specifically for examining the policy or what that might look like, but I think that rather than have this come back again and again, we should probably look at seeing something more permanent.
Okay, that could be we'll deal with this first part because we're talking about cutting down the tree, but the other part could be a business arising, and it is to examine the policy there to prevent this from occurring again. So that would be a secondary motion, a business arising type of motion. Okay, Councillor Bateman, anything?
Yeah, so I agree with all of the above, and just wanted to note thank you to the owners of the units for offering to cover the cost and the liability for the proposed work. However, I suspect it's not a significant amount of money on behalf of the district, so I suspect we don't need to accept that offer. So through you to staff, is this a particularly costly exercise?
Not sure the exact cost to come out to get an arborist to do it. It probably won't be too substantial. I was hearing that council's direction was to direct staff to do that. Right now, the policy lies, council's policy lies with giving the applicant the opportunity to do it at their cost, but we would need council's direction. If you wanted us to do it at district's cost or in alignment with the policy to have the applicant conduct the extra work at their cost.
So I'll go back to the mover if you wanted to.
No, I think it's our responsibility.
Okay.
I think we do it. I appreciate the offer by the resident and it tells me that the good faith that they brought this to us. Yeah, no, that's our responsibility. So
Was that your intention at the outset, or did you want to make an amendment? It's been added now, but I think that was your intention. Okay, okay. And Councillor pardon me, I'm just gonna check in with Pearson, Councillor.
And my only question is that we've put a prescriptive height in there at 6 feet. So now all of a sudden, if we've got a 6-foot stump and some young kid could jump on there and jumps on the top and falls off and it's on our property. So can we leave that, just cut it down? And leave the root ball intact? Because I think that if you leave a 6-foot tree there, now I'm thinking I have my grandsons, and if you know them, you know what would happen. Another anecdotal story. So I think that the amendment or the motion is great and I support it, but 6 feet seems to be specific.
Okay, now I want an amending motion then. So, well, I've been a bit lax with this. We should have already had an amendment. So staff cut the tree. Why don't you just say, why don't you remove a height of 6 feet and replace it to a stump? And then they can determine what the appropriate height. No, I'm asking we have a motion on the floor, so now I'm looking for an amendment motion. Down to, so would that be appropriate? Yeah, so the amendment motion, the amendment is to do this, yes. Okay, do I have a seconder for that? We're making an amendment that's moved by Counselor St. Pierre. So we're discussing removing of the height. It'll be an appropriate stump. That's what we're talking about. Okay, I call the question on the amendment, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Is carried unanimously on the amendment. So now that staff cuts the tree down to a stump at the cost to the district of Sooke. Okay, so we'll be left with a stump. Ms. Gray.
Possibly just a couple clarifying questions of, if there a policy that you need to waive, if that needs to come into this resolution. Perhaps if this is where council's going, maybe we should take a 5-minute recess and just double check this because there's liability issues. I'm concerned about if it's down to a stump, because I did read an email from the arborist saying if it's just a stump, that's not going to be safe because of the land and the foreshore and the height and the slope of it. So I don't think it's as simple as what we're trying to make it, which I appreciate is trying to happen. So perhaps if this needs to be resolved
Yeah,
today.
why don't we do that just to make sure if we have to make another, if we have to move this to the end of the agenda, that's fine. I just wanted to remove the height. A stump can be any height. It's a stump. It's a tall one right now, but it could be a shorter one. It just didn't want to get in there and say 6 feet when 5 would be more appropriate. Okay. So I'm just going to ask for a brief recess, just so we have this right and we don't get in the way unnecessarily. Current time is 8:01. We will reconvene at 8:06. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So we have some new language here.
Just to clarify, I think there's the first motion's been moved and seconded. The one on the screen now is just a proposed motion that we think captures what council would like us to do and also gives us a bit of time to reconnect with this arborist, confirm if this turns into a bigger conversation because of the stump being lower, the root ball deteriorating faster may necessitate more repair work than it was initially anticipated.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying. However, the tree in the current state is going to do the same thing. Like when it'll happen, but I don't want a future council in 7 years having to do with a fallen tree, because that's what we're trying to avoid. Is the tree's life has ended. It's this telephone pole now, and we just want to have it removed down to a stump, and we're gonna have to deal with it. Like at some point in time, a council will have to deal with this. And when that is, I don't know. It's anyone's guess.
And
Yeah.
that's fine. I guess we were just trying to clarify. We did have the arborists cut it the way it is because that's how they recommended it. So we're not arborists, so we don't go against the recommendations, but we can absolutely, our suggestion would be to re-engage with them, I guess, and confirm, can this be done down to a more reasonable height that doesn't increase liability to Councillor Pearson's point. If it's 6 feet, kids will absolutely climb on that and it creates a whole different liability there. So unfortunately, everything gets a little bit more complicated than I appreciate council wants us to be. And so for sure, we need the policy waived. I believe there's a motion on the floor that would either need to be voted on or defeated or rescinded. And this was just a suggestion for a couple of options and putting some caps on how much money we could get spent on this.
Okay, so I'm going to take the motion that's live and on the floor, and I'm just going to move it down to after this recommended action. So I'm not tabling it. I'm just as chair shifting it after the second proposal from staff and keeping it there for now. So I'm just going to shift it over as chair. Of course, anyone can challenge me on that, but as your chair, that's what I'm doing. So now we're going to go to the first part, and that is that council waive policy 11.6 trees on municipal property, boulevards, parks, and trails. Moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Haldane. We're waiving the policy. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The proposal here is, and that council directs staff to engage a certified arborist to assess the identified tree balancing residential viewscape concerns with best practices in tree health and risk management, with all associated costs to be borne by the district to a maximum of 5,000 to be funded by council contingency. Is anyone prepared to move that? Councillor St. Pierre has moved it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Haldane is seconding. So it's for discussion. When you move something, you don't necessarily have to agree with it, but it gets us talking about it. Councillor St. Pierre.
I appreciate that this will allow us to move forward with it, and we'll actually get the arborist back on it. I think that our intent is clear with staff in terms of what we actually want. I think the language is simply to protect the district from liability, which is also our job. So I think this is balancing the needs of the community in terms of what they want to see done and what we'd like to see in terms of beautification, and actually protecting the interests of the district and making sure that we're not taking on undue risks. So I think it's prudent.
Councillor Haldane.
Well, as Kevin said about his story earlier, I mean, these stumps were left because you want bird sanctuaries, but it's only for a limited amount of time before the tree deteriorates too much and it just falls over and could be a liability by hitting somebody who's walking a trail or along the road. So I think you cut it to a stump and be done with it.
Anything from anyone else? Counselor Beddoes?
Yeah, my only concern with this is if we go and we're gonna go hire an arborist again, and he comes around and she turns around and says, no, I go back to leaving 30 feet of it standing. Where does that leave us? I mean, we already said that we want this thing down. And so I don't agree in this. I mean, we're the body here that makes that decision. I just think we cut it down. I don't think we have to. We've already waived the policy 11.6, and now we're going to go ask for another opinion and spend a whole bunch of money. You know, I thought it'd be a few $100s to cut this thing down, and then all of a sudden we're going to be up to $5,000 for someone to come in and concerns with the best practices in tree health and risk management. You know, I'm sorry, it's a simple matter. Maybe I'm a little bit old school here, but you know, cut it down. Just let it lay on the beach. It'll be more of a habitat for the life on the beach, laying down on the ground, than it will be standing up there like that. So I can't support that second part of it. I mean, we would waive policy 11.6. We said we want it down to some reasonable length. I only went to 6 feet because that's what the people that live there asked for, is the maximum of 6 feet. I think it's far too convoluted to do a simple matter. I mean, gee, $5,000. I mean, a few $100, somebody would cut it down and take it away. I can't support it.
Okay, other comments? Counselor Pearson?
We're going down, it feels like we're going down a rabbit hole. I 100% agree with Counselor Beddoes. I think we've waived the policy. We direct staff to go cut it down. I don't think we need to assess it again. And I think it just needs to come out of there. Thanks.
Counselor Bateman?
I agree. This is Sooke. It's not West Vancouver. We must just do things the old fashioned way. I think occasionally $5,000 is ridiculous, frankly. Disturbing to me that it would, yeah.
Counselor St. Pierre?
I would point out that the $5,000 is actually just making sure that it's not more. It's actually protecting us from, you know, undue expense. It's not actually the cost. It's placing a cap on what the cost could be if we don't actually place a cap on it. So that's not what this is. It's not a $5,000 cost, which people seem to be fixating on. Well, yes. And what if it is? And you just say, go chop it down. And now it's, you know, 10,000. How do you feel? Or what if this, you know, I don't know. I don't know what I don't actually know what the root ball thing is, all the rest. I don't know what the risks are of anything falling down. I don't know if they could put a preserver on top of the stump and keep it from rotting. I have no clue whatsoever. I'm not an arborist, not my problem. I'm not a geotech, not my problem. But that's actually why you try and actually mitigate the risks. Now you can go ahead and chop it down, but that's not the advice that we're getting. And it puts us at some sort of risk. I don't know. But we can do what we want, right? Because we're council.
Counselor Haldane?
I'll do it the old fashioned way. I'll go cut it down for free. How's that sound?
Okay, so for myself, I appreciate what's being done here. It's on district land. There was a concern that kids may climb on the stump and jump. They also might climb any of the other trees and fall out of the branches. And that's just the reality of well, any human interacting in a wild space, not necessarily a child. Someone could run through it and lose their way and fall into it too and hurt themselves. So there is some liability here that we have to absorb. My other part here is I don't really want it assessed. I just want it cut down. I don't want it to deal with this again, and I don't want a future council to deal with this again. So rather than amending this, I'm not going to support this. We had someone assess it, and this was the result that they left us with. And I don't feel that, and then council's intention or where we're going was just to cut it down to a stump, a safe stump. And then we removed the height. So really what we want to have left is a safe stump. Mason bees or other birds. And when and whenever this tree may fall is a question I don't know the answer to, and nobody does. Because it could happen within a year, 8 years, 10 years, maybe never. But we don't want to deal with it again. Just want to cut down. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this because I think it's just going too far. I don't want to pay an arborist to assess what is already a dead tree. Sorry, Ms. Owen.
Sorry, through the mayor, Councillor McMath has her hand up. If we can get her on the line as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll turn to Councillor McMath. We just need to see her video on our screen because we can't see her.
Hi, sorry, I'm just coming to you from work, and where I'm located, there's private information behind me, so I can't turn my screen on. I just wanted to make a couple points. And the first is that there's going to be an arborist that will cut it down to the stump further. And so if they had any serious safety concerns, they would report those out prior to trimming it shorter. And the other thing to keep in mind as well, because there's still discussions about enforcing a tree bylaw. And so this is good to keep in mind when we talk about the fiscal impacts of some of our policies that we create, is that the cost to the taxpayer, should they need to have to pay to have trees come down, they would need an arborist assessment. Then they would need to have their permit purchased, and then they would have to hire that arborist to cut those trees down. So with that financial burden on mind, it's just another reason why perhaps a tree bylaw with best intentions isn't actually what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anything from anyone else? Okay, I will call the question then. All in favor of this motion? Sorry. We're on the second part. Yeah. Okay, ready? All those in favor of this motion? Opposed? I don't know how Councillor McMath has voted.
I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you. So that's 1 in favor and everyone else opposed. So that's defeated. So the next part then will be the motion that we shifted downwards. So this could be amended that staff doesn't cut the tree, that council directs staff to have the tree cut down to a safe stump at the cost to the District of Sooke. So I have amended that. That is the amendment. There's an amendment there that's been moved. Thank you. Well, I'm making an amendment to it. That council directs staff to have the tree cut down to a safe stump at the cost of the District of Sooke. So that amendment is moved by Councillor St. Pierre, or pardon me, St. Pearson. Gosh, Pearson. Goodness, and seconded by St. Pierre, right? Okay. Anything on the amendment, Councillor Pearson?
No.
St. Pierre, no. Anything from anyone else on the amendment? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? Councillor McMath, how are you voting?
In favor.
Favor, okay. So now we have the main amended motion, and that is that council directs staff to have the tree cut down to a safe stump at the cost of the District of Sooke. I'm going to call a question on the main amended motion. All those in favor, please. And any opposed? So that's carried unanimously. So now I think Councillor St. Pierre, did you have a motion arising? Because Councillor McMath raises a good point on what will be required throughout the District of Sooke for property owners. This is on municipal property, but going forward, as these incidents emerged, is likely there's going to be more. What is our approach for that? So I'm going to see if you wanted to put forward a motion of rising. Of course, you can also introduce one later as well.
Try motion arising, but honestly, if it gets too complicated, I will move to the second option. I'd be looking for a staff report to look at our policy with regards to how to describe the situation.
What is the problem you're trying to solve? Is that going forward as matters emerge where there's an impact on viewscapes that we want to have our policy looked at? Or what you could do is something that is just direct, we do have a particular policy. And maybe given that we've now had an experience with it, maybe what you could do is just. Sorry, I don't have my microphone on. Sorry, Councillor McMath and anyone else viewing. Just thinking about our conversation today, Councillor St. Pierre had indicated that we perhaps need to review this. So an option, given the time and that this is a new item, is that we could just refer this policy to the Land Use Committee and have a conversation about it, so that it's a refresher on what the policy is and how it impacts actual operations as it goes forward. Because it puts us all in just an embarrassing situation and an unfair one for staff.
No, I think that makes sense in terms of a longer conversation.
Yeah. So how about that council direct staff to bring this policy as well as today's resolution to an upcoming land use committee for discussion? So then here's the policy. Here's what happened when council got involved with it. Does anything need to shift or is it fine? Okay. So that is a motion arising policy. So I would suggest 11.6 and today's motion. What prompted this conversation? So it may be the case where you need the policy and how it plays out with an actual council resolution and then talk about it there. How does that sound for everyone? Council St. Pierre has moved that. Is there a seconder for that to the land use committee? Okay. Sorry, am I not being clear?
No. There's just been so many motions, the other motion, and now we're going to the land use committee.
Sorry, can whoever's speaking turn their microphone on?
No, I'm okay. I just, it just needs to go to the land use committee. No problem.
Yep, so then this here is the policy, and then when the policy is in play, what happens? Bring it to the land use committee, but I think having this particular item, because then it'll be on the land use committee, and what are we talking about this for? Well, here's an example of how this impacted council, the context. Well, the public members may not be,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, why are we even looking at this? Well, this is how it's playing out. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Anything further from the mover or the seconder? From anyone else? All those in favor? It's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay, 13.4. UBCM resolution supporting housing affordability through taxation changes and financial commitment. Councillor St. Pierre.
Okay, so I found this particular piece of correspondence interesting. They've done a lot of work on it, and certainly it looks a lot like what Mayor Tate was describing in terms of re-examining, the financial underpinnings of how we generate income. But it looks like Port Moody's taking the lead on that. What I did note, though, was the third bullet, which says increase renter protection and supports by sufficiently funding provincial enforcement to support tenants and minimize displacement, including the power to issue orders to landlords to address standards of maintenance deficiencies, as well as enhanced residential tenancy grant process to improve response times and lower the burden on tenants. Now, it's not that I disagree specifically with this, but I believe that our housing affordability crisis is in large part because of a huge amount of housing stock that is not actually being put on the market because there's not enough protection for landlords. And so what I'd like to see us do, and I don't want to bring up another resolution if it's just going to get shot down, which is why I'm bringing this forward at this point in time. I would like to see us bring forward some sort of a resolution to BCM to actually try and protect landlords in some manner that would actually unlock all of the housing that is potentially available right now that people are unwilling to rent. And they could do it affordably because they don't rent it because they're scared to. Okay, there's lots of people, everyone knows someone. That's about it. And I'm looking for council's support and direction on something along those lines.
So I hear you. However, the deadline to submit has
next year or whatever, I don't care.
So what I would suggest is Obviously, this is in the book. It's going to UBCM, is take note of that conversation and where it goes. It doesn't mean it's going to pass. It doesn't mean that others, this would be an opportunity for you to go to the con mic. Should it come live? I haven't looked at the resolution book to see the placement, but if it's if it hits the floor, to raise that perspective. And then I think it's something to work towards next year, starting, I think, fairly soon to get it on the AVICC agenda first so that it has that substance going to UBCM. And then I think as the land use committee meets, it may be a takeaway that is brought forward there for discussion too. And then you can get more of a Sooke specific conversation or what's happening here and what are some of the challenges, and it'll bring some more local substance forward.
That sounds fine. I'm just not interested in surprising council anymore with new resolutions, so.
Thank you. We appreciate that too, but we want to make sure we hit deadlines. So for now, I would just say to receive for information by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. Okay, all those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Item 14 is removed from the consent agenda. So Councillor St. Pierre pulled an item that will flow to the next regular meeting. Pardon me, sorry, Saint. There's no Saint. Sorry, Pearson. It's just Councillor Pearson. Oh my goodness. Why do I keep doing this? I think I need to have you on separate tables. The item that you pulled will come to the next regular meeting. Okay, go ahead.
So what happened with 9.5? Because
So
9.5 was the variance permit, and there was a recommendation that council deny proposed variance.
yeah, so when we adopted the consent agenda, we adopted that committee recommendation all at once. So all the items on the consent agenda, 9.2 to 9.5,
Okay,
because there's a resolution attached to it, we are effectively endorsing the resolution put forward by committee.
okay. So because I missed that, and it's my error, I wanted that 9.5 brought forward to the consent agenda. I was going to remove it. I thought it was in the letter format that I was bringing forward. I didn't realize, I'm sorry, and I apologize to everybody here, that I wanted to bring that one forward to the next meeting. Can I do that now? Can I ask?
Well, we've already resolved on it. So there would be a process then, I think, where a certain number of councillors need to vote in order to have it
What's the process?
moved. I have to check our procedural bylaw because, or I suppose as chair, I can bring the reconsideration. It's a reconsideration motion. So as chair, I can just we can just consider it now. That might be cleaner than having a vote by members of council to bring it forward in September. And then that would create unnecessary uncertainty for the developer that had one outcome in mind when he left and then is hearing something else happened.
Right.
Because then we would have to re-advertise and pay those expenses again. So as chair, then, just to keep it easier, I'll just bring it forward now then for conversation.
Thank you.
You get this one chance, counselor.
Thank
I'll
you.
put you through the process next time. Okay, so the committee met and resolved to upheld the staff recommendation, as I understand it, to not grant the variance.
Correct.
Okay. So I will turn it over to you then if you wanted to make, there's a motion there. If you then have to make a different motion now.
Okay. So my motion would be to bring it forward for a reconsideration in the September meeting.
No, that you don't have, like, because we are reconsidering it now.
Oh, okay. So we're just going to reconsider it right now?
Yes, so we
okay.
have already made a determination. So as chair, because you can only reconsider something once.
Yeah.
So yours would be out of order. In which case there would be a whole other process. So at this point, I'm just allowing this to be reconsidered at the meeting tonight. So in this case, you would need to make a motion that
Okay.
would be different than what is
Okay.
here.
So my motion then, and if I gotta go back and read it. So my motion is that we redirect, because of there was more correspondence that came in after the fact. And
So you're motivating, you have to just state your motion.
Okay,
Then you
just-
can
okay,
motivate it
okay,
once it's
okay, so
seconded.
my motion is that the applicant, that council direct the applicant and staff to see if they can come to terms for this one last ditch attempt, okay? Because if we, Okay, yep.
You can't
Okay,
motivate.
okay, good.
We need
That's
to
it.
get the motion on the
Okay.
screen
So we
first.
can,
So how about let's just get it on the screen so that we're clear on what we're voting on. So
That
you
coun-
said
that
that
council-
council directs staff
to meet with the applicant,
to meet with the applicant.
to reconsider. I want to reconsider, to explore opportunities for a workable solution. Does that make sense? I'm trying to. And the reason, okay,
Okay.
no, I can't motivate you.
Okay, let's just wait till we have it on the floor. Go ahead.
May I also suggest that I believe there were two other, oh, he's gone.
Mhm.
In the original report, there were also two other recommendations which were similar.
Right.
Could we just take an opportunity to pull on those to see if perhaps one of those is what you're looking for?
I was, yeah, and it was because.
Counselor Pearson,
Yep, you're right.
I'm gonna turn your attention, there's the alternative. Yeah, I would just go and look at the alternative motion, and I'll give you a bit of time there. It is on page 27. At the bottom is where it starts. There's alternative 1, and then there's 2. I think you're looking maybe at 28, page 28. Okay, should use the microphone.
Okay, the Land Use and Development Committee recommend that council
But
post.
you're going to need to just go council.
Oh,
That
council.
Council, take out the land.
Oh,
use
yeah,
and-
sorry, that council recommend, just that council postpone authorizing the issue development variance permit PL 902019 and direct staff to work with the applicant to develop an alternative proposal that addresses the noted concerns regarding pedestrian and vehicle safety.
Okay, so that is the alternative motion. Is there a seconder for that?
Yeah, we'll second.
Seconded for discussion. So go ahead, Counselor Pearson.
Okay. At the 11th hour, the applicant has, and I don't know the whole ins and outs, we've received letters, we've received communication that maybe there is a workable solution other than blasting that 5 meters of rock off the top of that hill. So that's what I want to know. Just because if we deny this variance permit, he can't reapply. Correct? 6 months, exactly.
Sorry, through your worship, not for 6 months.
Yeah, and I just want to give staff the opportunity to explore, because it feels like they were coming more to the table at the end of that meeting and that some of that communication that we received. So just want to give it the last chance, that's all. That was my rationale.
Okay, does the seconder have any comment?
Well, yeah, I think recalling back to that committee meeting, I was hoping we would reach this point. But we didn't because it was defeated 4-3, I believe. It wasn't defeated, it was passed 4-3. And I was looking at this, Silver Spray is in an interesting state of development at the moment. I think our director of planning did mention that there were some other significant activities that we are not privy to at this point. And that makes it difficult to make a decision in this matter. There were 5 variances, but last year, staff recommended approval of 2 of them. There were 3 were to be denied. The variance D, road frontage improvements on Silver Spray Drive. There's an interesting point raised in that staff report referring to the standards of the Urban Pathway Master Plan 2019. And that provided some sort of intermediate solution. So I can see why, I'm going to support this in that it's worth having the conversation continue. Simple as that.
Okay, so for myself, with the action that was taken, then they can't go ahead, which then would have required them anyway to work on another solution that is supportable by staff. So that would have happened anyway, or they just don't do anything at all. So this is the main entryway, as I understand that. The downside to some of the variances that we have already allowed is with some of the changes that we have approved in the other areas relates to there's a public park. There will be no parking on that road, which means the public is shut out of another egress to the water, because if it's popular, it's going to fill up. That is a downside of having allowed that variance to occur previously. With this one here, and I see that there was a letter where in favor of a night sky and a more rural setting with the trees. However, this is a highly urbanized environment in a very rural area. So in some communities of our communities, I'll pick on my own in Sun River, it is a suburban community in a rural area. Navigating that area without sidewalks or streetlights would be incredibly dangerous. And in this case, we're talking about high-end housing with people accessing a golf cart and using golf carts in the dark on a public road that we ultimately are responsible for. So I'm not in support of this motion. I think the Land Use Committee had a very thorough conversation about it. That action would have allowed or would have resulted in the applicant returning to our staff saying, okay, what now do we need to do? So that was already happening. How soon we would get it on the agenda, with everything else that's in the queue, it might come up to be within the 6-month time frame anyway. So that's where I sit with it. I haven't seen anything change. I'm also aware that as you drive out that way, as you leave sort of Sooke proper, Gillespie, East Sooke Road, remarkably challenging to drive at night. The sidewalk, there are no sidewalks, there is no bike lane. The road itself is crumbling away at the edges. And so it needs at some point some advocacy, which we could lend a hand, not our responsibility as the regional director, but lend a hand in by allowing everything at the end to not, it's not going to help his advocacy case for improvements to that road. And as we're saying, we want folks to come, they eventually want to come out and into Sooke. It is just, I think, a challenge. So I've said enough. Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I too will oppose this. I'm actually surprised we're even dealing with it again. We had a staff recommendation. The Land Use Committee had a robust discussion at length. And I know it wasn't unanimous. Really doesn't matter. It only takes one over. So, they talked about no sidewalks, no street lights. And now when the applicants say, ooh, geez, this might be turned down, all of a sudden, well, maybe I will renegotiate this thing. They had negotiated. They had come to staff It has been negotiated, went to the land use committee, which made their recommendation. Staff has made their recommendation. We just had a vote on coming through us for unanimous on the whole package. Now, I understand that Councillor Pearson missed that, and that's understandable. And you know, we miss things. I'm not gonna, you know, beat him up about it. But we were okay with it. Then all of a sudden, we're gonna go send it back to possibly, they get a chance to do it in 6 months anyways, and renegotiate it because it's turned down. So I don't think we're doing anything here. We're just gonna put it off to September and start the clock ticking all over again. I mean, it's, you know, what due process that we've taken is unreasonable. We've given this applicant every opportunity to come through and make a case to staff, and they didn't. Staff recommended that we don't give them the variance. Then it came to the land use committee. Again, we've had a robust discussion, and it not just councillors on there, but sort of lay people. I guess we're all lay people, and they came to the same conclusion. What they were asking for was out of the question, that the sidewalks and lights. And now if we're talking about, oh, we don't want them to blow out 6 feet of rock. Well, if you don't blow out the 6 feet of rock, you're not going to put sidewalks in. It's simple as that. So, I mean, why do we keep revisiting these things over and over again? And to me, it should have been straightforward the first time we did it. So it just boggles my mind. But anyway, I'm getting a little churned up here, and that's not what I should be doing. Thank you.
Councillor St. Pierre.
Yeah, I won't be supporting this either. I think mostly it's because, well, there's lots of reasons, but I have to look at the future here. This is a gravel path. We're looking at long-term maintenance costs. You're looking at people that are going to be in mobility assist vehicles, pulling golf carts. This is not actually going to work for them. And in the future, we're going to be asked to fix it. And then it's going to be at all taxpayers' costs. That's what's going to happen. The first time someone's scared about a bear or a cougar, they're going to want lights. The first time they want to get on the road with their bicycle and travel at night, they're going to want lights. There's things that everyone's going to want. And that's all there is to it as the population increases. Right now, it's still semi-rural with a low density, but that's not the expected future. In the future, there's going to be a lot more people, and they're going to be more concerned about trying to keep safe necessarily than light pollution that's already happening because of all the building. So the other thing is that I think this is almost like a Whistler type of concept. I've never been to Whistler. They have lights along the paths. You can actually see where you're going. You're not in the dark. If you're looking at beautification and tourism and trying to make it look nice, then you need certain standards. The idea that you're going to be happy wandering around in the dark on a gravel path in what amounts to really high-end suburban development with a golf course is actually kind of strange. It's just, I don't get it at all. I don't understand the vision. On other areas that are maybe off the beaten track, maybe, but I think that's not what I would have done either. I think that for all those reasons, we should just let the process continue. At this point, the developer will have a chance to work with staff to come up with something that works. Personally, as I've said before, I hope it's not necessarily the sidewalk. I hope it's actually a multi-use trail that's actually paved with lights that might actually meet the developer's needs and maybe everyone else's. I'd love to see that happen, and I hope it does. But we have to let this continue.
Okay, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, and I hear all the comments from the councillors, but the point of my motion wasn't to debate the variance. The point of my motion was for another discussion to take place, and it was just a last ditch attempt for our staff and the applicant to work. If there was, and it could come back again as recommended, don't grant the variance. And at that point, I guess we have to all accept that. I didn't want to debate the merits of the variance because it sounded to me like the applicant was willing to change their position, which I got that strong sense. There is some limiting factors in there that we've already granted variances. It is a unique development, but I don't want to get into the variance part. I just want to know if the process can have another opportunity for discussion between the applicant and our staff. That was all, to see if there was a workable solution. It wasn't about the actual variance itself.
Okay, no, that's fine. But I think through this, depending on the outcome, they're still going to need to reach out and work with our staff to come up with something else. So it doesn't.
6 month delay is what I was like. 6 month delay is another 6 months, and bringing things forward of uncertainty in this time. Anyways, I've set it up. I'm good.
Okay. Okay, so this the second motion that's been moved and seconded. So I will call the question on that. All those in favor? It's that council recommend that council postpone, oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the one that council, we're reconsidering. Now I'm confused in myself. We brought forward this for reconsideration, but Councillor Pearson moved the second paragraph. So not the first one. Go ahead.
Given that the second is actually in opposition to the first, do we not have to vote down the first or some such?
No, because we now have brought it for reconsideration, so it's back on the floor again. Right? Because when we passed the consent agenda, it was done, but now we're reconsidering. So now there's nothing on the floor. So then Councillor Pearson moved the second one. Yeah, so that is what's on the floor for discussion. Is that? Okay, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Councillor McMath, how are you voting tonight?
I'm opposed.
Is opposed? Okay, so it's defeated. So Councillor Bateman, Haldane, and Pearson are in favor. Everyone else is opposed, is defeated. So then I'll just bring the main motion forward that came from the committee, and that is that council deny the proposed variance to section 2.2A of the subdivision and development standards bylaw number 404, which seeks to modify the required frontage improvement as a condition of subdivision along a 57-meter portion of Thornton Heights and a 265-meter portion of Silver Spray Drive adjacent to the subject property located at 1245
Excuse me,
Silver.
Mayor.
Yes?
Sorry, sorry to stop you now, but you don't actually need to bring this back forward.
Okay.
So because you brought it for reconsideration and then there was a new motion that got defeated, it reverts back to the old one. So you're,
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my apologies for that.
I should have spoke up sooner.
That's okay. So that motion stands and it's business as usual. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. All right. So that then brings us to council verbal reports. So looking for updates from members of council, and who would like to go first? Councillor Beddoes.
I just attended the market deal with our staff, Miss sorry, get it right. Moog, sorry, Miss Moog. Anyways, it's very interesting to attend one of those, and I think I talked to more tourists than anybody, and they were fascinated with the fact that we do that. And congratulations on that process. And it's interesting to see where all the dots lie. So yeah, it was a good time.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bateman.
Yep, and I too was at one of the pop-ups at the country market with the deputy fire chief and our manager of engineering, Raphael, and that was fascinating. It's just my job is to pull them in, and then the professionals get to work with them. That was great fun. I met with Wildwise Sooke's Molly Cameron and wildlife researcher Gary Schroen recently, and they're in the early stages of organizing a Wildwise awareness event at EMCS in the fall, and that's exciting. We discussed ways in which I suggested, how does the district encourage other municipalities to better support Wildwise, which is an entirely volunteer-run organization. We in Sooke contribute $7,000 annually. Langford contributes $2,000. Other municipalities that Wildwise work with do not pony up effectively. Not that they work with ponies. Well, wrong metaphor. Anyway, that was interesting. And then we also talked about mitigation measures to reduce wildlife vehicle collisions. And I know this is an issue on our Throop connector, potentially. We've had issues about that, and that it's worth looking into. So I've asked so that I may bring something forward as this progresses. West Shore Arts Intermunicipal Intermunicipal Committee met again and very encouraged by the CRD Board's vote to take the next step in a potential arts facilities service that would provide planning grants for a regionally significant West Shore arts venue. Victoria Family Court, I'm on the Communications Subcommittee, and we're organizing a panel discussion in the fall featuring representatives from the 3 integrated police units, domestic violence, mobile youth services, and the IMCERT, Integrated Mobile Community Response Team. Because interestingly, those are funded by multiple municipalities, as Councillor Beddoes well knows, and West Shore, RCMP, and Central Saanich are pulling out. So we're very interested at the committee to understand the impacts of those services. And finally, tomorrow is the next meeting of the CED, Community Economic Development Committee, and proposed new service agreement with the Sooke Chamber is on the agenda, whereby the Chamber would administer a $10,000 business improvement or downtown beautification grant program. That'd be part of their service agreement. There'll be an update on tourism development highlighted by the July 14th order in council that has greenlighted Sooke's municipal regional development tax, or the hotel tax, as Councillor Haldane will recall, because this has been a subject for a long time, and it's due to start on November 1st, as we heard earlier. And also an update on Ms. Scott's attendance at the Pacific Northwest Economic Region Conference in Seattle this last week. The Juan de Fuca Cross-Border Tourism Corridor project was a focus of one of the seminars. And of course, this was the occasion when the United States Ambassador to Canada mentioned quote, "There are reasons why the president and some of his team referred to Canada as being mean and nasty to deal with, okay, because of some of those steps, like not traveling south of the border and banning bourbon." And of course, our premier responded, elbows up. Canada. Okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Other updates from members of council? Councillor Pearson.
Quick, I attended the Sooke Fine Arts Show opening and it was wonderful. The event was wonderful. Amazing art and amazing participation and amazing people being there. So there will be no Juan de Fuca Water Commission meeting until October. There's no business till October. So I'm off the hook for 2 more months. That's it. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Haldane, is there anything you would like to speak about?
No, I haven't done anything yet, so I'm gonna wait until I get something going.
Well, you got elected, so that's the beginning.
Yeah, I know the election was great. Yeah. Yeah, not much to say about it other than door-to-door stuff and a little bit of radio and talks. But yeah, no, I'll add once I start getting active with my council spot.
Thank you. Welcome. Councillor St. Pierre? Councillor McMath? Okay. As for myself, there was just 2 pieces. I recently toured the new John Horgan campus of Royal Roads University. So they are welcoming students starting in September. Everything has gone according to plan. Having seen some of the preliminary conversations, it was at the time discussed that students in Sooke are not transitioning to post-secondary at the same rate as Greater Victoria or even the rest of BC. So some of it was about bringing the campus closer to students here. So there's a collaboration of different parties involved. So with Royal Roads, there's also UVic, the Justice Institute, as well as School District 62. And the Indigenous learning part. So some of it would be where students who maybe need to finish grade 12 will actually be in a university campus setting. So the hope could be that that will actually shine a light on other options that are available closer to home. The building itself is, it's a campus, so there is a lot of concrete and wood, but a lot of natural daylight that flows in and out of the building. So every stairwell, every hallway has a lot of lights. The common area for students is also where, whether you're Justice Institute or attending UVic, you share the same common room. And you also have shared resources through staff. So it's not like UVic students would go over here, like they're in the same space. So it'll be interesting to see the collaboration that occurs there. And also just even from a staffing perspective, the staff are coming from different places and what shared practices they may have in the same way. So there will be an opportunity. I'd like to see it again when it's actually full of students. So at this time, I would say they're probably about 85%, which means the technology was starting to arrive, touch-up paint, and all of the equipment. Some of the furniture's coming in. So they're all on track to open. So of course, there's a lot available on the website. Entrance scholarships in the name or the legacy of John Horgan as well. And of course, the siting. There is no food and beverage operator on site. So students would then be going out into the local community to access coffee or snacks or lunch or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what the economic difference that makes to that particular area, where maybe some businesses will have longer hours, provide something different to meet the needs of the student dynamic. So it's quite exciting. So I was thinking in the fall of reaching out, and then of course I'll invite members of council if we want to go together to tour the facility when it's up and running. That may be a unique opportunity for all of us. On another note, as part of me, as a previous meeting, you may recall, council, that we recognized staff of long service. So over the course of the past month, I've been trying to hand them out directly to members of our staff and spent some time at our wastewater treatment plant. I always find the science there quite fascinating. So met some of the local feline, well, actually, they weren't there that day, population. But also had the opportunity to hear what our staff there were doing. Very pleased to say that we'll have the operating certificate for the first time in 20 years. Tremendous amount of work and investment and due diligence by our staff. So it's something to celebrate. However, because it's all underground, we kind of take it for granted. But kudos again to our staff here as well as the staff at the plant for the work that they're doing. And what we're learning as we have this remarkable asset in-house now and the work that's happening. Just on another note, some members of the public were asking, not overly kindly, about what's happening with the skate park. The skate park has secured funding through C-Park, and we're waiting for the Agricultural Land Commission to sign off on something. So if you're hearing concerns, it's not a district initiative. We support it through the commission, through the Capital Regional District. And please reach out to the province through our MLA to have that. As soon as we get that, it'll be ready to go. And we recognize that this amenity is being missed by members of our community, but we're in no way slowing it down. We're doing everything we can from this point to see it go ahead. And it's going to be new, bigger, more modern, all of that. We take that seriously.
And there was only 7 people that voted against the
Against the AAP, yes.
I'm not happy with those reverse referendums, but 7 people can't be that big.
I did remarkably see some young people skateboarding at Ravens Ridge down the railings of the stairwells, which is impressive to me because there's a term for it. I don't know what it is, but there is a term, and it was quite remarkable to observe, actually, which was good news. Okay. So other than that, we're going to move to item 16, adjourn to closed. And that would be that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to the following subsection of the community charter, the time being 9 o'clock. 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. 2A, part of a council meeting must be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following. And that's B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party. It's moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by St. Pierre. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We are now adjourned to close.